It could shock even the most seasoned observers to realize just how far Adv.Trmbeka and Ngcukaitobi has shifted the legal landscape in ways no one saw coming. When he enters a courtroom, it's not just law, it's strategy, precision, and a flair that leaves seasoned directors scrambling. Today, his confrontation with director Shamila Batohi has become the talk of the nation, with insiders whispering about exchanges so sharp they seem to redefine authority itself. The echoes of his words in that chamber might linger far longer than anyone anticipated. From the very first moments of the proceedings, the air was thick with tension. Batohi, renowned for her unwavering composure, seemed caught off guard by the meticulous precision of Ngcukaitobi's arguments. Every clause, every precedent cited, was executed with a rhythm that was almost musical, forcing the courtroom to lean in as though listening to a masterful performance. Observers described the energy as palpable, a current that ran through the benches and the press gallery alike. A surprising insight emerged when Ngcukaitobi began dissecting complex legal frameworks that many assumed were untouchable. His approach was not combative in the traditional sense, but surgical, cutting through layers of bureaucracy and expectation with a calm that bordered on theatrical. Batohi's reactions, subtle as they were, betrayed a flicker of uncertainty, an acknowledgement that the landscape had shifted in a moment too swift to fully digest. In the midst of it all, the audience could almost feel the historical weight pressing down. The room wasn't merely a courtroom. It was a stage where legal history might pivot in ways unseen for decades. Every argument carried the potential to ripple across institutions, altering assumptions about authority, precedent, and influence. The sheer audacity of the engagement left witnesses questioning not just the case at hand, but the very nature of legal mastery. At one point, Ngcukaitobi posed a scenario so intricate it challenged everyone present to think beyond conventional frameworks. He traced the implications of past decisions, connecting dots that even seasoned practitioners had overlooked. Batohi, often a figure of calm certainty, seemed momentarily thrown by the depth and speed of the analysis. Those watching noted the subtle shift in posture, the brief pause before her response, a signal that something profound was unfolding. Observers could not help but marvel at the storytelling embedded in the legal argument. This was advocacy as performance art, where facts became narratives and precedents morphed into dramatic twists. The precision of language, the cadence of delivery, and the strategic placement of pauses created an experience that went beyond standard proceedings. For those in the gallery, it was impossible not to be captivated. The courtroom's atmosphere became almost electric when Ngcukaitobi introduced dual perspectives, contrasting seemingly contradictory statutes and showing how they intertwined in ways that revealed new truths. It wasn't just about winning a case. It was a demonstration of intellectual agility, a showcase of insight that few could rival. Batohi's responses, measured and deliberate, indicated respect mixed with a recognition that the floor had been claimed in a subtle but unmistakable way. And then, moments later, the exchange took another turn. The arguments shifted from technicalities to implications, touching on societal structures, institutional responsibilities, and the ethical dimensions of power. Ngcukaitobi's voice remained steady, almost conversational. But each sentence landed with weight, forcing listeners to reevaluate not just the legalities, but the underlying principles that govern the actions of powerful figures. The next 8 segments unfolded with equal intensity, revealing layers of strategy and perception previously unseen. In one instance, the historical context of prior rulings was illuminated through an anecdote that connected distant events to current circumstances, showing how patterns repeat in subtle yet undeniable ways. Legal scholars in the room nodded, acknowledging the clarity with which complex precedents were made comprehensible. Another exchange highlighted the interplay between law and public perception. Ngcukaitobi dissected media narratives, demonstrating how framing could influence interpretations and outcomes. The discussion was not accusatory but analytical, revealing the unseen forces shaping both public opinion and institutional decision-making. Batohi, responding with precision, navigated the terrain skillfully, though the intensity of scrutiny was unprecedented. Vivid scenarios were painted in the room as arguments shifted to hypotheticals that tested assumptions about authority and discretion. Each scenario built upon the last, constructing a tapestry of possibilities that was as enlightening as it was disorienting. Listeners found themselves reimagining what they thought they knew about institutional power and the limits of legal interpretation. In one striking moment, the discussion turned personal, touching on ethics and responsibility in ways that transcended the courtroom. Ngcukaitobi drew on historical examples and contemporary challenges alike, weaving a narrative that highlighted the human dimension of law, the decisions, compromises, and principles that shape outcomes. Batohi's posture suggested engagement, a silent acknowledgement of the depth and resonance of the points raised. The dialogue continued to unfold with layers of insight that seemed almost infinite. In rapid succession, nuanced legal interpretations were delivered, counterpoints were met with elegance, and the rhythm of the discussion maintained a captivating tension. Outside, observers commented on the meticulous orchestration of arguments, noting that the exchange itself could serve as a case study in advocacy. Shifts in tone marked some of the exchanges, from reflective and analytical to assertive and declarative. Each pivot was intentional, revealing different facets of strategy and perception. Witnesses remarked on the seamless integration of logic and narrative, as though the courtroom had become a theater of intellect, with both advocates aware of the stakes beyond the immediate verdict. And then, with a subtle turn, the proceedings explored institutional dynamics in ways that seemed almost visionary. The discussion of policy implications and systemic patterns highlighted the broader consequences of legal interpretation, extending the impact of the case far beyond the walls of the courtroom. Those present sensed a rare convergence of law, leadership, and foresight. The next 8 segments delved into the intricacies of precedent, context, and public accountability. Complex clauses were unpacked and reframed, illuminating how previous decisions intersected with contemporary responsibilities. Observers were struck by the clarity brought to what often seemed like opaque legal language, and the courtroom absorbed the gravity of each revelation. Nuanced differences between intention and interpretation were explored, challenging assumptions and provoking questions about the nature of authority. Hypotheticals were presented in vivid detail, revealing subtle vulnerabilities and overlooked opportunities within institutional frameworks. Batohi's measured responses underscored the seriousness of the exchanges while conveying a respect for the depth of analysis. Historical case studies were invoked, offering parallels that enriched understanding and provided a lens for evaluating current actions. The narrative intertwined fact, precedent, and implication, creating a multidimensional view of the legal and ethical stakes. The rhythm of the proceedings reinforced the sense that every word mattered, every pause was purposeful, and every nuance carried weight. Moments of reflection punctuated the exchanges, allowing subtle insights to resonate. The conversation touched on societal expectations, leadership responsibilities, and the tension between law and public accountability. The courtroom itself seemed transformed, a space where ideas and principles held as much sway as statutes and regulations. Unexpected twists emerged as dual interpretations of legal provisions were juxtaposed, revealing contradictions and harmonies alike. Observers noted the precision required to navigate such terrain, recognizing the rare combination of intellect and strategy on display. The dialogue transcended routine argumentation, venturing into the realm of profound influence. The penultimate segments examined the broader narrative of institutional evolution. Insights into procedural norms, decision-making patterns, and leadership behavior were layered alongside hypothetical outcomes, constructing a vision that challenged conventional wisdom. Every assertion invited scrutiny, every example demanded attention. Finally, the concluding segments wove together the threads of precedent, ethics, strategy, and perception. The courtroom remained charged with focus, a testament to the skill, timing, and intellectual rigor of the exchange. Observers left with minds racing, digesting the intricacy, the power dynamics, and the subtle brilliance of the dialogue that had unfolded in real time. The room settled as final statements echoed softly, yet the impact lingered. Conversations outside the courtroom reflected on the unusual intensity, the strategic depth, and the rare alignment of intellect and insight. Observers sensed that what had transpired was not just a legal confrontation, but a masterclass in advocacy, a performance of intellect, and a moment that might be studied for years to come.